Samantha Rutherford faces a ghost from his past while Mariner and Boimler struggle to recruit for Starfleet in Star Trek Lower Decks' 3rd season 5th episode, Reflections. Before I go any further, please note this video may contain spoilers, so if you've not yet seen Lower Decks, specifically this episode, this might not be the video for you. Let's warp into this. Chosen to man a booth at a recruitment fair on Tolgana 4, Mariner and Boimler struggle to convince the locals to join Starfleet, a challenge complicated further by a free-spirited former officer turned archaeologist. Meanwhile, back on the Cerritos, the truth behind Rutherford's past and implant is revealed when the ensign encounters a manifestation of his younger and edgier former self. Reflections is another uneven episode, the midpoint of the show's 3rd season that has so far struggled to match the quality of its first 2. Returning to writing duties for the first time since the 2nd season's strong final episode, creator and showrunner Mike McMain delivers something that feels very much akin to TNG Season 8, his legendary series of Trek tweets that went a long way in securing him the gig in the first place. Once again, McMain doesn't stray too far from the conventional A-B plot formula, with something resembling sci-fi closely accompanied by something very, very silly. By far the better of the 2 plots this week was Rutherford's, being an exploration of oneself, a revisit of themes of inner conflict not too dissimilar from something like the original series' The Enemy Within. We also got some nice warmth towards the end, with Rutherford employing the help of an imaginary Lower Decks gang during the race, which felt less like an attempt to shoehorn the cast into those snazzy Voyager racing suits, and more a nice quick touch on the importance of friendship and cooperation. All very wonderfully Trekkian. McMain is very good at filling the void where humour should probably be with something equally as affecting. Reflections, like so much of Lower Decks so far, simply isn't funny enough, but here it almost doesn't matter as we have plenty of content to make us feel something. This is something McMain has clearly learned through working on Rick and Morty and Solar Opposites, shows that also have a track record of blending humour with more dramatic material designed to hit on some sort of emotional level. Another thing Lower Decks has done here, following in the footsteps of its distant relative shows, is giving us a lore-focused episode. Many recent episodes have felt irreverent and inconsequential, but what we got here, particularly with Rutherford, although something happened with Mariner, which we'll talk about in a minute, pushed along a narrative that the show has slowly been cooking since its debut. The mystery of the origin of Rutherford's implant took a giant step forward here, and it's this kind of storytelling that I love, as it gives us a real reason to care in the long term, and also acts as a sign that there's more to this show than just a bunch of mildly funny references. Much like Evil Morty or The Plight of the Wall People, Lower Decks is a show that is seemingly building to something big, and what we got here was a wonderfully timely affirmation of that ambition, an ambition that you'd probably expect from something that bears the name Star Trek. It's a good job really that Rutherford's plot delivered like it did, because literally everything on Tolgana 4 is what I don't like about this show. Mariner and Boimler repping Starfleet at a job fair is pure TNG Season 8, a sitcom-friendly scenario that got me excited over the prospect of some sort of madcap mashup of Star Trek and The Office.
It's a procedure!
But we didn't get that here. What we got instead was a series of skits which essentially repeated the same joke with a bunch of perfunctory Trek references about how Starfleet is or isn't a military, how many uniforms they have, and how everyone ultimately ends up assimilated before Mariner gets fed up and hits something which ramps up Boimler's anxiety. Rinse and repeat this a couple of times, and there you have it. That's pretty much all this is. This had potential, but all it amounted to in the end was Mariner being Mariner, Boimler being Boimler, and a bunch of reheated talking points mined from Trek Reddit, the sum of all this resulting in little more than a simple shrug of the shoulders. But TrekLad, it had the game aliens from Move Along Home, and that makes it automatically great. Well, if that's all you need from this show, then great, go fill your boots. But I want more, and given the quality of the episode's other half, this is a perfectly reasonable ask. There was one bright spot to this otherwise disappointing segment, which was Mariner's unlikely pairing with the show's answer to Vash, which strongly hints at some sort of future adventure in the vein of Captain's Holiday, a development that I'm sure has probably sent Trek's fanfiction enthusiasts into a frenzy. This is an encouraging development for Mariner, who, despite a promising start to the season, has regressed back to her season 1 self, and prior to this episode felt trapped in some sort of causal loop where character development is seemingly non-existent. Let's hope that what we saw here was her very own free Pip moment. Much like Rutherford and the man he once was, Reflections has a good side and a bad one. Thankfully, and echoing the outcome of this episode, the light outshone the bad, giving us an overall experience that makes for one of the season's stronger episodes so far. But as we know at this point, Lower Decks can still do so much better than what we've gotten recently. I'm giving Reflections 3.5 stars out of 5. But what did you think of this episode? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more Star Trek content like this coming soon. Until next time, I'm the TrekLad. Live long and prosper.